Hello there everyone, Art Burns here, wishing you well today. So as you know from watching these videos and listening to this podcast, I really like to talk about the real world implications of mindfulness practices and meditation and how they can really benefit us in our interactions with each other and really have a strong impact on our world around us and how we interact with the world around us. A lot of people, it's enough just to meditate to feel good. It's enough to just, take a break from the swirling thoughts and just overwhelming sometimes thoughts and emotions and sensations that we feel. For a lot of people that's enough just to take a break from it. It feels good, right? It feels good for me, and that's all I need for it. However, there are real world implications to this. There are real benefits to doing this work that are going to impact every single area of your life, right? Now, yesterday we talked about communication, right? Communicating is something that we're always doing, right? It's constant. It's every single day. And to bring mindfulness to communication means to, be empathic about how your communication is received by another, and to be cognizant of and contemplative of your words and the choice of words and the tone that you use and the gestures that you use, and to bring people in for your communications as opposed to pushing people away with your communications, right? And so today I want to talk about actually even a little bit, even closer than the communication, even before the communication actually starts, right? Just your presence is enough to change the dynamics of an interaction, okay? Like whether you're, walking into a room, or you're in the kitchen cooking dinner for your kids, or you're driving your children somewhere, or you're walking into a meeting, you're sitting in a meeting at work, all these different, times that I'm talking about, and any other time in general, right? Your energy is having an impact on what's happening in the rest of the room, right? People can feel it, right? It's just like I talked about yesterday, this empathic resonance that we have, right? Like if I were to, bang my thumb with a hammer and you saw me doing that, you would say, ow, because you feel that in your body, right? That's empathic resonance, right? And it's something that's real, it's measurable, it's true, right? And so when we walk into a room and our energy is something that is not bright and present and kind of positive, then the rest of the room feels that from us, right? Now, of course, sometimes that doesn't matter. Sure, I mean, people walk onto a public bus or a subway or into a grocery store, and it doesn't matter. I mean, there's so much going on there. Most people won't even notice it, and even if they do, it doesn't really have any real, kind of effect on things, right? An impact on things, right? But let's talk about with your kids, right? Like even if you're just sitting there next to your children, right, just watching television with them, or walking down the street with them, or pushing a shopping cart in a grocery store with them, right? If you are present with them, right, even without speaking, they are going to feel that. Right, they are going to sense it. They are going to notice that. They might not notice it here, but they notice it here. Right, and this is going to make them feel safe. It's going to make them feel, that they have an ally. They feel like they matter, right? Because you are present with them. Okay, so presence requires, this sort of absence of a lot of the thoughts that we might have, right? Like recently, I attended a talk where the teacher said, if you and I were to have an argument, right, and we both walk away feeling like, like this anger, that's unresolved anger from this argument, right? Well, for the next half hour or so, right, sometimes much longer, but for the next, say, half hour or so, while we're resolving this anger and letting ourselves calm down, if then we go and we spend time with someone, then we're not really present with that person, right? The energy that we're bringing to that person is the energy of that, that anger and that whatever the emotional, thought, emotion thing that was happening with this argument, right? We're bringing that into our other relationships, right? So, so especially now, right, in the time of coronavirus, right, when we are doing a Zoom call and then have to run right in and start cooking dinner for our kids. There's no buffer time, right? So sometimes, when you get out of work, if you were driving to pick up your kids after work, or driving home to meet up with your kids after work, that driving time can often be a buffer. So naturally, you might have found yourself calming down from that and being able to be more present with them. No guarantee there, right? A lot of times, I'm sure, many of you would admit that you're bringing your work home with you, right? You're coming into the door and you're still, trying to think through things that are happening at work and emotions that you're trying to resolve from the workday. Well, that's all preventing you from being present with your children, right? And they are going to sense it. And as I say, now it's even more so, right? When a lot of times we're physically there, right? But we're on a Zoom call, so we have to tell our children, I'm sorry, I can't play with you right now. I can't do that game with you right now because I've got this work to do. Well, kids, they have a hard enough time understanding that, right? And so if we compound that with not being present with them even when we don't have the work going on, well, then what they're doing is they're interpreting that in a very, very kind of, I don't want to say dangerous way, but it is. It's really kind of, it's scary for them, right? Because they feel like, okay, if you're here but you're not here, then who am I to you? Right? What am I? Where do I stand with you? Right? Again, when you're present with your children, they feel like you are there with them. They feel like you have their back. You are their ally. You are someone they can count on. They feel that connection. When we're infants, right? When the parent-child attunement and infancy is known to be one of the most important aspects of brain development, right? Like if, for instance, if they've done studies where, if the mother, even if she does make the eye contact with the child, but if she regularly is the first person to break that eye contact, that child's brain develops differently from a mother who allows the child to break the contact first, right? Because children will naturally do that because they get overwhelmed by it. They get too much good feelings. So they're like, okay, I got to get out of here for a second, which is just adorable, right? But if the mother or the caregiver is the one who breaks that eye contact first, it's shown to be really, really damaging to the development of the brain of the child, right? So you can see how this happens, right? And of course, just because that happens in infancy doesn't mean it doesn't matter throughout, toddler, pre-teen, teenage years, and on right into adulthood, right? It does matter, right? Because our children, and of course, the younger they are, the more impactful it is, but our children are always gauging that, right? They want to know that they matter to us. They want to know that we're there with them, right? And of course, this isn't just children. I know a lot of people, watching this video are not parents, and so you might be sitting here saying, well, I'm not a parent. Well, then what about at work? Right? Like what about, with people who you're, maybe if you're a manager and you have people, reporting to you, right? People can sense if you're not all there with them, right? If you're in a meeting with them and, of course there's outward ways to do it. Like if you're, looking at your phone, okay, who just buzzed me? Okay, no, I'm good. What are we talking about? People sense that and it feels like, okay, I don't really matter to this manager, right? And that's going to damage that relationship, right? But even if you're not doing that, there are ways in which you're giving off this energy, right? So if you're thinking about something else happening in your mind, right? It's something that happened earlier or something that you're worried about happening later, the person reporting to you is going to feel that. They are. And so now you might say, okay, well, of course, then there's also the spouse, right? And I often tell people that your spouse can tell when you're present or not present. So now you might be sitting there saying, okay, well, I don't have kids and I'm single and I freelance from home. So what is it for me then, right? So I would tell you, well, when you go to the DMV, when you go to the grocery store, when you go to that barista, when you go, when you get pulled over by a police officer for speeding, right? People are going to tell how engaged you really are. It's something that's going to happen, right? And there's lots of evidence about this, right? And lots of sort of scientific data that backs what I'm saying up, right? Take modern physics, for instance, right? It is a known, understanding that if you take two electrons that were at one point connected to each other, right, and you separate them by miles, you separate them, and kind of reverse the direction of the spin of this one, then this one miles away will reverse also. Right, that's something that they can see and measure in science. So the idea here is that we are all connected, right, on this very energetic level. Like I said before, it's the empathic resonance, but even beyond that, right? There's a lot. If electrons hundreds of miles away can do that, then what happens to people who are hundreds of miles away, right? What happens if to the person who you used to be very close to, but now are physically very distant from? Are you not still connected via energy? And there's no proof of that yet, and I do say yet because the idea is that it's very possible, right? There's a great old story, a Hindu story about what they call Indra's net, right? So the idea here is that the universe is an infinite net that was created by the god Indra, right? And I hope I'm even saying that name right. If I'm not, I apologize to anyone who's, please send me a correction on that. But this net, everywhere the net, meets each other, there's a jewel. Right, and the jewels are just absolutely magnificently polished, and they have infinite amounts of facets, right? And so in each one of these jewels is reflected every other jewel in the entire universe, right? So the idea is that if you change one jewel, you then change the entire universe, right? So this is a story going back, almost 3,000 years, right? And so it's nothing new to think that things in the universe are connected to one another, right? And so the idea here is that, as we work on ourselves, right, as we cultivate a sense of presence, right, as we learn, as we practice, paying attention to what's happening as it's happening, right, releasing ourselves from the thoughts, releasing ourselves from the emotions, releasing ourselves from these sensations that are caused by these, and really allowing ourselves to be present with what we're doing, right, then what we're doing is we're changing things, right? We're changing the dynamic of every interaction we have. So don't think about the universe. Just think about those who you're connected to, right? Your children, your loved ones, your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues, your employer, your employee. Just think about it in this term, right? Like how cultivating this sense of presence, right? This ability to just be present all the time, right? Instead of when you're talking to somebody, you're thinking about something else. No, be present right here. If you can cultivate that, then what you're doing is you're changing the dynamic of all of that stuff that goes on, right? And of course, you're indirectly changing things too, right? Because as you're present with someone, then their next interaction with the other person is going to be changed as well. So in a very, very real sense, what we're doing is by working on ourselves, we are impacting a lot of different people around us and a lot of different interactions around us in a very, very positive way. And the good news is that it's all about just pausing and just allowing ourselves to be present with what it is that's happening as it's happening. Right? Again, not thinking about this meeting that we have at 4:30 today and how we have to prepare for that and how sitting here is delaying that, right? No. Think about right here. That doesn't mean that the meeting at 4:30 doesn't need to be prepared for. Of course, you got to work that in, but if you're working that out while you're talking to somebody, then what you're doing is you're sacrificing now in the interest of later. And my friends, that's not going to be a good equation, right? That never balances out right? If you take care of now, well, what happens later is always going to happen in a now time as well, right? Like there's only the present moment. Right? There's never any other present. Eckhart Tolle tells us nothing ever happens in the future. The first time I read that, I was like, what? How can you say that nothing ever happens in the future? Of course things happen in the future, but they don't. They happen at a present moment in a future time, right? But they always happen in a present moment. So if you take care of this present moment and you take care of every present moment, then when you get to that point that you're worried about, that's just another present moment, and you're going to take care of it. And that will be, kind of, that's what we mean when we say the future takes care of itself, right? If you take care of now, the future takes care of itself, right? So again, folks, it's just about paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, as the great Jon Kabat-Zinn tells us, right? And that's all it is. And it's a practicable, a trainable, practicable skill, right? And all you have to do is commit to doing just even a couple of minutes every day can make a huge difference in this, right? Like, and I mean that. 1 or 2 minutes every day for 30 days can have a huge impact on how you are able to be present. And they're shown, again, lots and lots of data out there that shows that this is true, right? Like, neuroplasticity in your brain changes over the course of, say, 8 weeks or 2 months, right? Doing just even a few minutes a day, you're going to see a difference. Now, of course, in order to get to a neuroplasticity level, I should be honest with you, most studies show that you're talking about 20 minutes a day for about 8 weeks, right? So, but that is legit. Like they have shown that the actual neuronal, activity of your brain will change in the course of 8 weeks' time at 20 minutes a day. Right? And that's in addition to lots of other things that happen in your body, which are very, very positive as well. So if you can commit to a 20-minute-a-day practice, then that's ideal, right? But now that doesn't also have to be 20 minutes of just sitting in meditation. If you're able to do 5 minutes of sitting in meditation, but then say 8 times throughout the day, you're able to stop for 2 minutes at a time, same deal, and you're going to get the same benefits out of it. So if you'd like to learn more about that and like to learn how to kind of patch together what will actually work, hit me up. I'd love to tell you about it, all right? Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching. Wish you well. And again, please stay safe out there and please stay healthy. Everything is impermanent and we're going to get through all of this, but hang in the present moment. That's your best shot. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Take care.